TRX abducted lunge, level 1. Adjust the suspension trainer to mid-calf length. Stand sideways to the anchor point with one foot through both foot cradles, or you can be in single handle mode. With your hips staying square, lower yourself down, driving your suspended foot away from you. Let your hands drop down and touch the ground to unload those hips and create more mobility. Return to standing by driving through the hip of the grounded leg, keeping your foot flat the entire time. TRX abducted lunge, level 2. On this level, you'll perform the same movement, foot flat, torso nice and tall, driving the suspended leg away from you for mobility in those hips. The difference here is this time your inside arm will go down to provide a little bit of stability at the bottom. The opposite arm, or arm closest to the grounded leg, will drop down inside that knee to make sure that knee stays open and hip stays engaged. Return with a flat foot driving through the hamstring and glute of the grounded leg. TRX abducted lunge, level 3. Having used levels 1 and 2 to create some unloaded mobility at the bottom with hands down, you'll now keep your hands up the entire time, going through that same range of motion, adding strength and stability into that increased range of motion into the hip. Lower yourself down, driving that suspended foot away from you, keeping the grounded foot flat on the ground, rooted into the ground, and driving up using that hip. TRX abducted lunge with stretch. Adjust the suspension trainer to mid-length and place in single handle mode. Place one foot in the foot cradle, standing 3 to 4 feet to the side of the anchor point, standing sideways to the anchor point. Start from a tall standing position, drive the hips back, push the suspended foot underneath the anchor point, taking hands to the ground, inside the grounded leg. Breathe, trying to create more mobility in the hips, reaching that foot as far as feels comfortable. Return to standing by driving through the hip. Repeat the movement, looking for a little bit more range of motion with every repetition. Grounded foot stays flat and rooted into the ground. Arms stay inside grounded leg to prevent that knee from driving inward. TRX atomic pike, level 1. Adjust the suspension trainer to mid-calf length. You'll start on the ground facing away from the anchor point with toes in the foot cradles. From a hands and knees position with a stable straight spine, extend your hips, lift the knees off the ground to a strong plank from the hands. Drive the hips up towards the sky, pulling your toes towards your head and your head in between your arms, performing a pike with a slight hold in the plank between each repetition, keeping elbows extended and pushing into the ground. TRX atomic pike, level 2. Starting from the same strong plank position, shoulders pulled down and back, hips fully extended, toes pulled towards shins. Start with a push-up, hold the plank, drive up into a pike, down under control, rest on your knees between each repetition. Find a plank to a push-up to pike, extend out of the pike, come down to rest between each repetition to maintain quality of movement for every repetition. TRX atomic pike, level 3. Start from the same hands and knees position. On this level, the movement will be continuous without a rest between repetitions. Initiate by extending hips and knees, pulling shoulders down and back, finding your plank, lowering in control into a push-up, and driving up into a pike. Hips above head, control back down to a plank, push back up into the pike position. You can add additional intensity to this exercise by adding isometric holds to the bottom of the push-up and the top of the pike. TRX atomic push-up, level 1. Adjust the suspension trainer to mid-calf length. You'll be on the ground facing away from the anchor point, both feet in the foot cradles, toes in. From a hands and knees position, engage the core and perform the push-up from the knees down position. At the top of the push-up, extend the knees and hips to a plank, hold for a moment, return the knees back to the ground with an engaged core, performing the push-up, cycling back and forth between the knees push-up to the plank position. TRX Atomic Push-Up, Level 2. Level 2 will take that strong suspended plank you developed in Level 1 and add a crunch motion to increase the strength and conditioning component of this exercise. Start from the same position, push up from the knees, come up with a strong core, hit your plank, then drive your knees into your chest, going for flexion at the knees and hips together. Extend back out to the plank, knees down into the push-up, extend up into the plank, knees in, knees out, knees down, push-up. The hips rise as the knees come in towards the chest. TRX Atomic Push-Up, Level 3. On this level, your legs will remain extended the entire time, forcing more strength and stability in the core. Start from a hands and knees position, core engaged. Extend the legs and hips up to a strong plank. Pull the knees in towards the chest, allowing the hips to rise. Extend back out to a plank, lower down into a push-up, and repeat. You can focus on strength by adding isometric holds at the top of the crunch and the bottom of the push-up, or focus on conditioning by increasing tempo. TRX Biceps Curl, Level 1. Adjust the suspension trainer to fully shortened. Stand facing the anchor point with an offset foot position. Let yourself lean back, palms up, and perform a bicep curl. As you go back, you can load the rear leg. As you come forward, you can load the front leg, using the rear leg to spot you. Focus on keeping the elbows up and away from the body the entire time, and shoulders pulled down and back. TRX Biceps Curl, Level 2. On this level, you'll adopt feet together position. You can adjust your body angle for the appropriate resistance challenge. As your feet go closer to the anchor point, the more of your body weight you will move. Focus on keeping the elbows up and away from the body, and keep the body planked as you perform this bicep exercise. TRX Biceps Curl, Level 3. Level 3 is performed similarly to Level 2, except your hands are in a pronated or a palms away position, putting more demand on your forearms as well as your biceps. Continue to keep this as a planked movement, meaning your elbows and shoulders are the only joints moving and your body stays planked as you perform the exercise. TRX Bicep Curl, Single Arm, Level 1. Adjust the suspension trainer to mid-length, place in single handle mode, stand sideways to the anchor point. Start from a bicep curl position, hand towards the head in a wide stance. Extend the arm, keeping the elbow lifted up away from the body and loading into the leg. Use the wide stance to be able to spot yourself up, keeping that shoulder down and back, focusing on flexing from the bicep. TRX Bicep Curl, Single Arm, Level 2. Start from the same standing sideways position to the anchor point, feet together, elbow flexed in the bicep curl position. As you extend the elbow, step out with the outside leg to provide balance and a spot. Focus on the body still moving as a plank in a sideways fashion. Keep the shoulder pulled down and in. Focus on squeezing from the bicep, keeping the shoulder lifted, arm off the side of the body. TRX Bicep Curl, Single Arm, Level 3. On this level, your feet will be together and stay there throughout the movement, adding an additional resistance load to the arm, as well as core stability to the hips and torso. Lower yourself down under control by extending the elbow, keeping the body planked, resisting the forces of the hips working to the ground. Initiate by pulling the shoulder down and back and flexing through the bicep. TRX Body Saw Level 1. Adjust the suspension trainer to mid-calf and start ground facing away from the anchor point with toes in, with your feet behind the anchor point. Your feet are on the opposite side of the anchor point from your head. Assume a bows and toes plank position, elbows right underneath the shoulders. Then push your body back towards the anchor point as far as feels comfortable while being able to maintain that plank, and then pull your head over your hands. Focus on that core staying nice and tight, a good plank to standard, and move through whatever range of motion feels comfortable for you. TRX Body Saw Level 2. On this level, you'll take advantage of the pendulum principle, starting with your feet directly below the anchor point in a nice strong plank on your forearms and elbows. Extend those legs back and up from your resting position to hit a strong plank, and drive your head back towards the anchor point with a straight body, and then bring your head out as far in front of your hands as you can, maintaining that tight, strong plank. In this position, you'll have more resistance through this range of motion and more of a core challenge. TRX Body Saw Level 3. On this level, you'll have more of a challenge because your center of gravity will be further away from the base of support, adding a stability as well as strength challenge. From your rest position with a strong plank and knees on the ground, extend your legs back into a strong plank. Perform the body saw by driving your body back towards the anchor point, maintaining a good plank. Focus on stability from the lats, the rhomboids, and a strong core. Pull yourself forward, getting your head out in front of your hands as far as you can, maintaining a good plank. Think of this as a moving plank out and back, incorporating your core and your back muscles. TRX Burpee Level 1. Adjust the suspension trainer to mid-calf length and place in single handle mode. Stand facing away from the anchor point, 3 to 4 feet in front of the anchor point with 1 foot in, toes in. Start from a standing position, knees together. Bend the knee and the hip, bringing the hands to the ground. Extend both legs back, holding a plank position. Drive the unsuspended knee forward, planting the foot flat on the ground, and standing back to the starting position. Focus on a strong plank and full hip extension. TRX Burpee Level 2. Having mastered Level 1, mobility in the hip and strength in the core, lower yourself down using your hip and leg, placing your hands on the ground, extending both legs back, finding a strong plank position, lowering yourself into a push-up, driving the unsuspended leg back underneath the body, and stand to full hip extension, focusing strength into the planted leg and bringing knees together at the top of the movement. TRX Burpee Level 3. Once you have mastered the stability and mobility of the burpee without the hop, you'll add a conditioning and explosive component to the exercise by driving up from the bottom and adding a single leg hop. Lower yourself down, hit the plank, drop into a push-up, drive that knee forward, and explode up with hands overhead, working yourself into full hip extension on that single leg hop. TRX Burpee Level 4. For this level of the burpee, you'll start with your foot directly underneath the anchor point, maybe even slightly behind. Lower your hips down and perform the burpee as you did in Level 3. Once you hit the bottom of the push-up, you're going to extend your arm, roll onto your back leading with your leg, roll back over onto your stomach leading with your arms, and finish the burpee. This rolling component of this level adds an additional core and conditioning component to this already great movement. Focus on each component with control. Keep pressure in the foot cradle and point your toe as you roll. TRX Chest Fly Level 1. Adjust the suspension trainer to fully lengthen. Stand facing away from the anchor point in an offset foot position. Rear foot, heel slightly off the ground. Front foot flat on the ground. Arms extended out in front of your chest. Spread your arms. Lower your body forward, coming up onto the ball of the foot of that front leg. The offset foot position allows you to spot with that front leg. Treat the movement as an integrated contraction between the chest, biceps, and lats, and the body remains a moving plank. To unload this movement, you can step further away from the anchor point or provide a greater self-spot with the front leg. Re-engage the core, pull the shoulders down and back with every repetition. TRX chest fly level 2. Performing the chest fly with your feet together, heels slightly off the ground, introduces an additional stability challenge as well as resistance challenge. You now do not have the option of spotting yourself with that front leg, and you must additionally engage the hips integrated with the core to maintain a moving plank. Find your appropriate body angle, move through the exercise slowly, integrating the contraction from your chest, your biceps, and your lats to get the most out of this exercise. As you start to fatigue, you can move slightly away from the anchor point with your feet to unload it, to be able to move to standard. Ears, shoulders, hips, knees, ankles aligned, shoulders is down and back. Slight pauses at the bottom will increase the intensity of the exercise as well. TRX chest fly level 3. The way to continually progress the TRX chest fly is to take a deeper body angle or vector. However, do not attempt deeper angles until you have mastered the ability to integrate the movement of the biceps, chest, and lats to bring yourself in and out of this movement, shoulders remaining down and back, hips remaining extended. In any fly movement, you're looking for minimal or no elbow movement. So the angle that your elbow starts this exercise should remain that same angle all the way through the movement. TRX chest press, level 1. Adjust the suspension trainer to fully lengthened. Stand facing away from the anchor point in an offset foot position. Start with your arms fully extended out in front of your chest. Tension on the suspension trainer the entire time. Lower yourself down towards the handles and drive yourself back to the starting position. The offset foot position allows you to use that front leg to self-spot yourself, ensuring good form of a moving plank in the upper body and the appropriate mobility in the shoulders and chest. TRX chest press level 2. Bringing your feet back together in this position requires more core stabilization. The standard remains the same. A moving plank, alignment of ears, shoulders, hips, knees, ankles. Lower your body down towards the handles. Re-engage the core as you press back up. Breathe normally during the exercise, focusing on a moving plank in the body and appropriate mobility in the shoulder girdle and arms. TRX chest press level 3. Lifting one foot off the ground adds rotational force to this exercise, requiring additional core stabilization. Find a body angle or vector that is appropriate for you to maintain the standard of a moving plank. Down under control, re-engage that core and drive back up. That floating leg can be placed behind you, in front of you, or in a knee up, toe up position, similar to a sprinter start. Be sure to perform the same number of repetitions on each leg. TRX clock press level 1. Adjust the suspension trainer to fully lengthen. Stand facing away from the anchor point. Adopt an easy body angle as you would for a chest press or a chest fly. Lower yourself down under control as a moving plank. Shoulders pulled down and back, hips are extended. At the bottom of that chest press, reach out with one arm to a T, pull that arm back, extend back up to a chest press. Down, reach to the other side, bring it up, and return to a chest press. The idea here is to keep good core stability, leading to good shoulder mobility. You can perform clock presses one side at a time or alternating sides. TRX clock press level 2. On this level, you'll activate the core stability you developed with level 1 and lower yourself down into the clock press, one arm performing a press and the other arm performing a fly, focusing on a strong, stable core, keeping the shoulders and hips square the entire time. This can be performed one side at a time per required number of reps, or alternating sides as performed here. TRX clock press, level 3. On this level, you'll take the core stability and shoulder mobility you developed in the first 2 levels and change the angle you reach out with the arm. Engage the core, pull the shoulders down and back, extend through the hips, and as you lower down, doing a chest press with one arm, you'll use the long arm to reach up towards 1 o'clock, out towards 3, and down towards 5, maintaining the same standard of a stable core, resisting rotation in the shoulders and hips, and only moving through range of motion that feels comfortable and you can control. Remember to modify resistance by changing foot position. TRX Cossack stretch. Adjust suspension trainer to mid-length. Stand facing the anchor point, legs wide as can be with full hip extension, elbows bent directly underneath shoulders, core engaged, tall posture. Tension remains on the suspension trainer throughout the exercise, leaning down to one side, keeping hips inside grounded foot. Trail leg remains extended. Pull toes of trail leg up towards knee. Return to standing position by driving through hips. Alternate sides, focusing on torso staying tall, creating mobility in the hips, and strength as you return back to standing position. TRX forward lunge with hip flexor stretch. Adjust the suspension trainer to mid-length. Stand facing away from the anchor point with your feet together, body tall, arms extended straight out in front of the shoulders as you would be for an easy chest press. With one long stride, step forward with the right leg, allowing the right arm to drop behind the body, left arm up overhead, left knee touches the ground. Once the left knee touches the ground, shift the hips forward, getting a stretch across the upper torso and into the left hip flexor. Drive pressure into the handles, returning to a standing position, and alternate sides. Focus on keeping core engaged, looking for mobility in the hip flexor and shoulder, breathing normally, driving yourself back to standing by putting pressure into the handles. TRX half kneeling rollout, level 1. Adjust the suspension trainer so the handles are at knee level while you're in a half kneeling position directly underneath the anchor point. Make sure torso is tall, grounded knee is underneath hip. Rotate and roll out to a 45-degree angle from the anchor point, engaging the core and leaning forward. Look for opening the hips and keeping the core engaged while the front foot stays flat. TRX half kneeling rollout, level 2. For this level, you'll increase the resistance by starting from behind the anchor point in front of your head. Same half kneeling position, handles at knee height, core engaged, knee directly below hip. Rotate and roll out at 45 degrees, maintaining strong core and hips. This position will give you a larger range of motion and more resistance on the rollout. Focus on keeping the shoulders pulled down and back the entire movement. TRX half kneeling rollout, level 3. Just as you did in level 2, strong core, strong hips, creating mobility in the hips, adding a tricep press at the end of the rollout. Core stays engaged, flexing, extending only from the elbows, maintaining a plank in the torso throughout the exercise. Focus on keeping the forward knee straight ahead and working through the triceps and core. TRX hamstring curl, level 1. Adjust the suspension trainer to mid-calf level and start with your heels in facing the anchor point, feet behind the anchor point, feet on the opposite side of the anchor point from your head. Bring your hips up off the ground, hold a strong core, then draw your heels towards your hips by bending your knees and your hips. Extend your legs all the way out with each repetition. Your goal should be to bring your knees above your hips as your feet come in. TRX hamstring curl level 2. For this level, you'll start with your feet directly under the anchor point or slightly in front of it. Start with the same strong supine plank. Focus on keeping a strong, stable spine and get mobility in your hips and knees, drawing your heels towards your hips. Your goal being knees on top of your hips as feet come in. Focus on tension in the core and control in the hips. Look for full extension in the hips and knees as you return. TRX hamstring curl level 3. For this level, your hands will come straight above your head for less stability, requiring more core engagement. Start with your feet directly underneath or slightly in front of the anchor point.